Guys, everyone is a prepper in some way, but where do you fall in the prepper category is the big question. Many people, they lock their doors at night, they make sure their car is secured, they have money in the bank, they have some medical supplies around in case they need something, and they make sure that their kids are home from school on time. That can go all the way to being totally prepared for, survival as a full-blown prepper, really making sure that you have all your bases covered. One of the things we're going to do today is go through a list of the different ways that people prepare and where you may fall in this list, but also it may give you some ideas that you need to maybe prepare better in certain areas. Now, of course, first and foremost is just preparing for everyday type situations. It doesn't matter, again, if the kids are out and you're checking in on them, finding out where they are, you lock your doors at night. You're just concerned about the basics. You make sure your car, the oil is changed, you have gas in your vehicle. Those are things that people do on an everyday basis, making sure you have your cell phone with you. Those are all things that you're being prepared for, and it's just everyday life. And so no matter where you fall, typically that is one of the first places that we start to prepare. But then it goes to being a survivalist, being a full-blown prepper, and that's where I fall in. Guys, I prepare for whatever life can throw at me. It's not just one specific thing, but there are a lot of basics in survival that I want to take care of, and I base all of those on the rule of threes. 3 minutes without air, 3 hours in extreme conditions, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Medical and self-defense flow in between. And that's what I base everything on. So it doesn't matter if I have some kind of personal SHTF on the side of the road, or if we have complete civil unrest and we have a grid down situation. I try to make sure that I have those things ready. I recommend anyone having at least 3 months worth of food, and having some kind of firearm to defend yourself, having some medical supplies put back, having a way to get to water if you need it. If utilities are down, what are you doing? If the power goes out, what are you going to do? And not just for a short term, but for in the long term. And then I continually make sure that I am prepared in a lot of different areas. Number 3 is pandemics. And the reason why that's number 3 is because we have just gone through a whole life change across the world. Whether it's social distancing, quarantining, lockdowns, there's been a lot of things, and it does disrupt the normal distribution system. As we've seen, toilet paper is gone, hand sanitizer, but also food has gotten somewhat scarce at a lot of different times. It's according to what's going on. And so, guys, if nothing else, what we've just gone through should help you to at least think about being better prepared. Guys, next is civil unrest, and we've seen that across our nation here lately with a lot of the protests and a lot of the demonstrations, but then they have broken down into looting and to riots. And we've even seen it to where people are calling for defunding the police. And guys, we're talking about some serious issues that have gone across our country for a number of different reasons. And it's not only just racial, but it's also even the way that we govern each other. And so, guys, that is one thing to be prepared for. Of course, we've seen firearms and ammunition just completely dry up. A lot of people have been stocking up food and needed supplies, whether it's generators or freezers and different things like that. Because a lot of times we still, again, have our utilities and we have our cell service and our internet, but going to the grocery store, could endanger your life in a urban situation especially. Which leads us to everyday self-defense. Many of us, especially if you're watching this channel, you're concerned about home defense with your firearms, with non-lethal options, or even if you carry a knife with you or whatever you have for your personal self-defense. Concealed carry obviously is a big thing here in the U.S., and more people are finding the need for concealed carry. Guys, you have the responsibility for your own self-defense. Whether they defund the police or not, you're the first line of defense. You are your first responder. And, you need to be ready to protect you, your family, and your property. And so a lot of people feel that way, and some of those people aren't even concerned about other areas of prepping, whether it's food and water. But let me just say this, if you're really heavy on firearms and ammunition, guys, you really need to think about maybe putting some food back, maybe how you're going to get your water, your medical supplies, and different things that fall into the prepper category. Because the last thing you want to do is to be tempted to use those firearms and ammunition to do things that go against who you really are. And so guys, if you're really hungry and your family's hungry, sometimes you're going to turn out to be a taker. And that's not what we need. Now, a big one is natural disasters. And, no matter where you live in the world, there are certain things that come up occasionally, whether it's a hurricane if you live on the coast, whether it's in our area where we have tornadoes, whether you're on the West Coast, you have earthquakes, possible volcanoes, flooding, huge blizzards and snowstorms. I mean, there are a lot of things that we face on a regular basis. And most people have those things in mind, but a lot of times they're not really prepared. Guys, if you live in an area where there have a lot of tornadoes, know the drill, know where you need to go, have your safe room ready, be able to get into the basement, make sure that your family knows these things. Make sure you have the supplies that you need. Make sure you know where your electrical systems are, where you can shut them down, your water if you need to shut it down, and having those basic things ahead of time. Next is just having medical supplies. You're big on being able to take care of things if you have a situation at your home. Maybe your child has fallen and cut himself, you have some gauze, you have pressure bandages, you have a trauma kit. You have a medical bag with a lot of supplies in there. You carry it with you. If you're going hiking, you have a medical kit. You're on prescription drugs and you depend on those, and so you need to have a little extra supply. And so that is one thing that a lot of people do, is they just make sure that they have medical taken care of. Economic meltdown. That is one thing. A lot of people want to protect their wealth, and so they have money in the bank. And guys, there's so many people that live paycheck to paycheck. And what that really does is it makes you a slave. If you need to put new tires on your vehicle and it becomes a economic issue, it becomes a crisis in your life. Guys, you need to remedy that. You need to have money in the bank. My son, when he first got his first job, he just would spend his money like crazy. And then when something came up with his car, he didn't have the money. And I sat him down and I told him, I said, having money in the bank is freedom. It allows you to do whatever you need to do. But when you don't have money in the bank, you're a slave to money. And so guys, make sure that you protect your wealth. Many of us, especially when it gets into the prepper side, we have precious metals, whether it's silver or gold, also other items that we can sell and trade and barter. And firearms are an excellent option, to be able to buy and sell. But making sure that you're investing your money wisely. But the problem obviously is that, if we have an economic meltdown and we have a stock market crash, how are you going to protect your wealth? And so a lot of people do a lot of things to be able to protect those things that they have, not only for now, but also for later in life. Next, we have the bushcrafters. These are guys that really prepare to live with primitive survival skills, with minimal tools. They get out in the outdoors. They learn how to make fires with the bow drill method or with the flint and steel. They learn to purify water, using grass, sand, and charcoal. They learn how to eat wild edibles, where they can live off the land. They hunt. They learn how to clean game. They learn how to cook out in the wild. And, they learn all these survival skills to be able to get through tough situations. Many of them are just outdoorsmen. They're not necessarily thinking about prepping, they're just thinking about living. A lot of bushcrafters, though, take it a step farther and they do become preppers. And a lot of them go into the next option is homesteading. And that's being self-reliant, and it's having a place where you have gardens, you have livestock that you can harvest, and you just try to live as much as possible without depending on the grid. Solar panels, generators, all kind of different systems to be able to be very independent. And it's one of the things that the United States is big on. When we founded this country, people were self-reliant, and we need to be careful not to be too reliant on the distribution chain, because guys, it is fragile. Next is a technological breakdown, which would really be an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. That can be caused by a couple of different things. One is the sun. If you have some solar flares, it can actually take out the grid, the electronic grid. And if that happens, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Plus, with some of the rogue nations that we have, setting off an EMP high above the atmosphere, setting off a nuclear bomb that will disrupt all electronics, whether it's your cell phone, your computers, even your TV, but also even your vehicle. And this could really cause a lot of trouble. And so a lot of people are concerned about EMPs. It's really refreshing to see the government really kind of taking it seriously and starting to harden a lot of things that we have. And there are steps with the Faraday bags or Faraday cages to be able to protect your electronics. But if your cell towers are down, you don't have any cell service. And so having alternate ways of communication, whether it's ham, CB, or even just two-way radios. Having a lot of backups, having books that you can reference instead of relying so heavily on electronics. And so guys, technology is incredible, it's really advanced, and it's advancing every day. But the more we become dependent on it, the more vulnerable we can be. So you need to really take steps to live in a world without technology. Now the next, I'm going to lump a few things together, and one is climate change, and that's a big concern for a lot of people. It started out as global cooling and the coming ice age, and that's what Earth Day was founded on. And then it turned into global warming, and now it's just climate change, which can mean a lot of different things. And a lot of people are concerned about what man is doing here on this earth to change the temperature and the climate of the earth. Really, one of the biggest things you can do is just to be active. But personally, I'm not a big proponent of climate change, but it's a highly debatable subject, and so I'm going to leave it at that. Also, peak oil, which would fall into that category. A lot of people feel that we're going to run out of our resources of petroleum or fossil fuels, and so they're looking for a lot of alternative sources and trying to pass legislation for us to move from such dependence on oil to having other options. And then just limited earth resources. We're losing our forest, we're losing our water source, we're losing our game and our meat sources. And so a lot of people are just concerned about losing Earth's resources. Again, these three things to me are not a big deal, and that's just me. But if it concerns you, then you need to be prepared for it. And probably the best way is to let your voice be known. And that's what America's all about. Another is a world war, which includes nuclear detonations. And so, protecting yourself from fallout. And guys, honestly, if you know the basics, you can get through a nuclear blast. As long as you're not in the detonation zone, your chances of survival are great if you just do certain things. And so knowing what to do, having iodine pills, making sure that you get indoors into a certain area of an inner part of your house, or even better yet, a basement of a concrete barrier, wash yourself off, do some basic things. But world war is definitely something that concerns a lot of people, and it can go well beyond just a nuclear detonation to invasion or whatever. And so growing up in the Cold War is definitely something that has always been in the back of my mind. But with the Russia and China kind of calming down with a lot of their nuclear threats, it has been one of those things that's kind of fallen to a lower priority for me. But then when you have Iran and North Korea and other rogue nations that are threatening things, it's something really that should be taken care of and you should prepare for. And really, it's not very difficult to prepare for those things. And we're working on a video right now about nuclear fallout and how to survive a nuclear blast. End-time prophecies, which also includes other cultures. In fact, every culture pretty much has some kind of end-time prophecy of the end of the world. And I'm a Christian, so I grew up with Revelation and definitely understand a lot of the threats and things that can happen during those end times. And so a lot of people do prepare just being motivated by end-time prophecy. And yet there are a lot of people that feel like, that they're going to be raptured up, and so they don't have to really think about any kind of situation. But guys, here's the bottom line, is that even though it may not be the Great Tribulation or Armageddon, the Bible is full of prophecies about things that can happen prior to that. So for me, I think that you should always be prepared, and not only for yourself and your family, but also for others. But that is something that motivates a lot of people to be prepared, including the Mormons, which typically try to keep 1 year supply of food and their supplies ready at all times. geopolitical situations or a change in government. And that's one thing that is a big concern right now with the movement towards socialism. We here in America, with our freedom and our capitalism, which I am a huge proponent, I believe that whatever country you live in, that should be your priority. You should see for the best of that country. Here in America, America's first is what I believe in. And so I think that when we're better, then other countries will be better as well. So socialism to me is a big no-no. I am totally against it. But then when it comes to the New World Order, which is global government, I am definitely against that. And a lot of people are concerned about a takeover of globalism. And one of the problems is that we lose all of our voice, we lose our freedoms, and we lose a lot of our basic rights. And so, guys, that's one thing that I will always stand against. One of the things that I've been saying lately is, especially with the rise of socialism, is know why you believe what you believe. Read the Constitution, read Wealth of Nations, read a lot of books that really show. Look through our Founding Fathers' documents, a lot of the quotes, and know why you believe what you believe. And guys, that'll make you stronger, and it'll make you more resolved to stand for what this country was founded on. And last but not least, zombies. Now, very few people actually believe that there are going to be zombies and a zombie attack. But yet, there could be some kind of pandemic that strikes that actually infects people in the same thing as like rabies or something like that. Zombies is going to be mentioned. But one of the things about zombies is that most people consider zombies as people that are trying to disrupt everything that we've built and stood for. And so really zombies just equal the bad guy. And I kind of agree with that. So guys, if you're prepping for something completely different, make sure you leave it down in the comments below. It's good to see different ideas and different concepts from people. Because guys, the big thing is, the better my neighbor's prepared, the better I'm prepared. And it's something that you always need to consider. Get to know your neighbors. Be friendly with them. Guys, in a crisis situation, they may be who you depend on the most. Make sure that your family's prepared. Make sure that you're prepared. First, hit those basics. Take the rule of threes and think, you know what, if something were to happen tomorrow, I have these things already in place. And your food, your water, your medical supplies, your self-defense options, because when the crisis starts, that's when supplies run out. And so thinking ahead of time, guys, is going to save you a lot of trouble and could possibly save your life. What we've seen with the pandemics, what we've seen with the civil unrest and a lot of the rioting and looting, guys, it should inspire you to get prepared. When we prepare to live. And guys, if you're serious about prepping and survival, check out Survival Dispatch Insider. It is one of the best, most credible resources on the web, using many of the top names in the survival prepping world. We upload one video that's exclusive to the Insider every week. I'll have a link down below in the description. It's well worth checking out. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.